morning to you guys. How you guys doing today? We are live from Southern California on a spectacular view with the icon on top of the Icon building in downtown San Diego. Coming to you live with the 162 Experience podcast. Steve, how you doing this morning?
Fantastic, Benito. Thanks for hooking us up. We are, 20 floors up?
Yeah, about that. 2021, absolutely.
It's a little windy here, but we are living the life, and we've got in the house today special guest, Mr. Mikel Mekki. Mikel, say hi, sir.
Hey, everybody. Glad to be on. Thank y'all for having me.
Man, I can listen to that voice all day long. That's amazing. We were saying earlier that Mikel has a voice for radio, while Benito has the face for radio. Boom.
You heard that, everybody.
2 points right there.
I just got offered to be a co-host permanently. I think that's what that was.
That was. You should have seen the girls we had co-hosting last week. You got to get in line, I tell you. And Benito, we're excited next week for episode 7. Tell us about that.
We are going to do a show about, and all of our audience is kind of interested in this. People are talking about it. What we are going to do is we're going to talk about internet dating in 2016. We're going to have a few girls on the show. It's going to be awesome. Not sure exactly where we're going to do it, but we have a lot of people asking about, different platforms out there, whether it's Match.com, whether it's Tinder, whatever the case may be. We're going to talk about internet dating, how to get it done, how to go on a date. Does it actually exist? Just a lot of different topics, and we're going to go and go full force and talk about what's going on.
And we're looking for a hot tub company to sponsor us. If anybody is involved in the hot tub industry, please let us know. It's going to be pretty exciting. Benito is repping his Raiders outfit today. I've got my normal 162 garb on. And our special guest.
Repping the Warriors. That's right. Repping the Warriors.
Let's get that ring on there. He's got a championship ring. Tell us about that championship ring before we get into the interview. How'd you get that?
Well, you got to know people, right? You got to know people. And so just blessed to have good friends that work with the Warriors. And they gave out the replica rings. I wasn't able to go that night, but I had somebody grab me one. And I love it. I wear it. And people actually, a young lady the other day said, "Oh, do you play for the Warriors?" And before I can answer, she said the most hurtful thing. She said, "Oh, no, you're too short."
She didn't even give you a chance to answer.
Right. I could have at least said I was like a practice coach or something.
Man,
but
she needs a filter or something.
Right.
Should have been like, guess who taught Spud Webb how to win that dunk contest?
Right.
Let's talk sports. Let's go right into the Warriors. We've got one of the biggest Warrior fans. How long have you been a Warriors fan?
Since I liked basketball.
Awesome. And when's the last game you've been to this year?
Right before the end of the season. I went to the second to the last game.
Cool.
Yeah.
And take your fan hat off for a second and act like you're an analyst. And you got to be fair. What's going on? We got a shot?
They definitely have a shot. I mean, they have they have the best bench in the league. They got the best starting 5 rotation. They've got guys that, they've redefined the center position. So you've got 4 guys that can play center. And they know how to pass. They get assists. So, they're going to take it. They just have to move around a little differently. It's actually going to throw off, I hate to say this, I'm giving other teams a tip. It's going to throw off their game plan. Because without Steph, they got to figure some other stuff out.
Yeah.
All right, check this out. I'm going to take you live to a game. This is what I want to know. This is one of my questions. So, I have never been to Oracle Arena, never been to a Warriors game, and I know a lot of people haven't been out there, but you see it on SportsCenter. You see all this stuff. What is the difference between going to a regular season game versus a playoff game there? What is it when the players come out? It's an experience. You're watching Steph Curry do some dribbles, do the half-court shots. Tell us about that experience.
First of all, I've never been to a game where people show up an hour and a half early. Like, they show up. Steph Curry has changed when people get to basketball games. Right? They used to come after the national anthem. Now that they're an hour and a half early just to watch him warm up. And then the energy is just ridiculous. The vibe, the feeling, the crowd. You got to bring earplugs. They call it Roracle for a reason.
Oh, that's hot. And Mikel, tell maybe somebody that's a casual sports fan or not much what he does when he walks, how he starts the warm up, because I think it's one of the hottest things ever.
Just the fact that he comes out of the locker room into the hallway and shoots it from the hallway and hits it. It's just, so when people see that stuff during the game, they think, oh, he got lucky. That dude does that walking out of the hallway. It's just the most amazing thing.
There was a play, the game that I think that they tied the record. I'm not sure. It was against the Spurs where he hits a 3-quarter shot from the free throw line on the other side, but it didn't count because it was it was barely less than a second left, but he nailed it, and it was just like a free throw.
Right. They call it, like Mark Jackson calls it a layup. When he shoots like that, it's a layup. That's what he does. He just makes it happen. It's the most amazing thing ever.
That's cool. All right, we're going to get back to the Warriors here in a minute. Benito, we talked last week about Nick Swisher coming up. He's batting almost 400 in AAA Scranton, and 2 of the Yankee stars, Alex Rodriguez is out with his obliques. That could take days or longer. And then one of the young guys, Aaron Hicks, who was only batting about less than 50 anyway, is hurt, and he's having an MRI done. So it's the perfect time for Swisher to come up. And the Yankees need offense. Yankees are in dead last place right now. What do you think about Nicky Swish? Are we going to pick him up?
I think that's the only thing to do. Not only do they need to bring this guy who's had experience, but they need to bring some energy into the clubhouse. Nicky Swish is just an amazing dude who's going to bring fire, who's going to bring just stuff to the batting order, and it's going to rock the house. I believe that's going to happen in New York.
And let's talk more NBA playoffs. What's your prediction? Let's go on the. Let's go to some of the other series. We've got 2-2 Clips and Portland. Who's going to win that series, Mikkel?
I think Portland. I'm gonna say Portland, right? Not just my wife is there from there, but I believe they have nothing to lose and everything to gain. So they're gonna go nuts and they're gonna take it. And it's sad to say, seeing Chris Paul get hurt like that, and it's not a good thing because I wanted to see that competition between him and Steph. But I think Portland, they just got momentum on their side right now.
Awesome.
See, Chris Paul was going for the steal in that play because I watched it now. I think he had the steal, and he literally went down, grabbing his hand. He was just, boom, they knew it right then.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and he was holding, you could see his hand bones were out of place. I mean, he's out for the season.
And let's talk about the Steph Curry injury.
Yeah, that was, it wasn't an unnecessary play. He was doing his best to defend, but he gives so much that he just sacrificed his body, and he slipped on a wet spot. I mean, that won't happen in another million years.
Yeah. And so they say he's out about 2 weeks.
Right.
And for those that have been paying attention to any sports at all, Steph Curry, I think he's going to be the Sportsman of the Year. Fair?
Oh, yeah.
Sports
absolutely.
Illustrated.
Yeah.
How do you not? And it would be so cool if I think they'll win the series. They're up 3-1. We already talked about that. And then the next series, who would they get in the next series?
Yeah, see, I don't know who they're going to. I would hope they would play Portland over the Clips.
Yeah.
Clips are just a little bit more of a tougher handle, but that's because Chris Paul. I mean, he really covers well. But we'll see.
But then you got the Spurs against Oklahoma City. Man, what a
That's a great series.
The West. I mean, it's almost like nobody's even interested in the East.
Right. Who's in the East?
Well, I don't know.
Well, you got the Raptors, Pacers.
Right.
You got the Hawks.
The Raptors were a team.
I know, right? The only people that are the only team that's actually relevant is LeBron and company. Coming out of Cleveland. That's it.
Awesome. Well, listen, we'll get back to sports. Benito, you think it's anything else you want to say before we jump into the interview? We're going to go to our sponsors real fast, and then we'll jump into the interview. Anything else on sports you want to say?
On sports, not really. We covered everything that I wanted to cover. I love talking about Dub Nation, talking about NBA. There's been a lot of hockey play. I actually was with some hockey fans the other night for Game 7 of the Blackhawks Blues game.
Yeah.
And I'm not that much of a hockey, follower, but when it comes playoff time, these guys are going nuts. And they are talking about Game 7, audio loud, people cheering, people going crazy, and it was nuts. Blackhawks lost, but Blues advanced, and it was amazing. Just hockey playoffs are just amazing.
Good stuff. And for those that are watching on Facebook Live, we are live on Facebook. We are live on Facebook. This is the first time we've done it. And so like us, if you got some questions, let's see. We've got Mark Waters, half of hell of a view, but hey, thanks. Mark Waters is a guy in Florida that I went to. We worked at Publix, the grocery store, together. We've stayed buddies all this years. So hey, Mark out there, and just love it, man. We love the 162 experience. Our goal is we got 2 goals. Number 1 is to be one of the top 50 downloaded podcasts in 2 years, and then in 5 years to be one of the top 10 downloaded podcasts. And that number to be in the top 10 is about 50,000. So you want about 50,000 downloads a week per podcast. But we got some great shows coming up. We've got a comedian, Mike Vinn, in 2 weeks. We're working on memory expert Ron White for the end of May. And then, of course, we've got our dating show for next week, which we are super, super, super excited about. We're going to do our quick sponsors. This helps us pay for the podcast and helps us pay for Robert. Robert's our sound technician / producer, and that's Robert. Let's go to Robert
Let's go to Robert.
Yeah,
live on Robert.
And I got to tell you, there's 2 people I want to recognize this morning before we hit our sponsors. Number 1 is Robert. Robert is the kind of guy that changes on a dime when need be. Like we called him yesterday and said, hey, listen, we're not going to be able to podcast from our place. And he said, come to my house. And so as much as we wanted to go to Robert's house, we decided to slum it here in the beautiful, beautiful San Diego, California. And so Robert doesn't sleep. Well, he sleeps, but he sleeps in the afternoon because he works the night shift for Fox. And so he does the whole thing. Then he comes. We call him Mr. Grumpy Pants because when he gets here, he hasn't slept. And so the second person I want to recognize is Benito. Benito what time did you work till last night, Benito, at the bar?
Yeah, we were up late last night,
He rolls in about 3 o'clock in the morning, wakes me up. Not literally wakes me up. I hear the alarm go off in the house because we're roommates as well. Some people didn't know that. And Benito gets sometimes 3 hours sleep before we do the show. And so, Benito, thank you, buddy, and appreciate you. Our first sponsor that we're going to talk about is Legal Shield. Legal Shield is a company that I've been a member with for 18 years, and I just feel more secure. I have better peace of mind knowing that whenever I'm in a jam, whenever I got a question, which is often, that I don't know the answer to, I can pick up the phone within 3 rings. I get an attorney from one of the top-rated law firms in all of North America on the phone with me. Within 8 business hours is the contracted time they have to call you back, and they'll do things for you. They'll do things like speeding tickets. They'll review contracts, write letters. More than anything, they'll be there for you. If you've ever wanted to have somebody that has your back, that's in your corner, call your local Legal Shield associate and get signed up for that. And the reason that I don't just send you to my website is I know we've got a lot of Legal Shield listeners out there, and I want you to tell your friends about the podcast. I don't want you to be like, oh, he's going to steal my sales. No, I would never do that. I would always – no, I don't steal. Benito, on the other hand, he's looking to get to the next position, so he needs it. Uh-oh, Benito, there's the police.
They're coming. What is that? You saying that because I'm wearing a Raiders shirt?
No, I'm only teasing. So anyway, that's sponsor number 1. Benito, over to you for sponsor 2.
Sponsor number 2, we have Sports eShop. My buddy Christos runs a sports tour package, and what he has created is the ultimate fan experience. I'll hold this up right now. Woohoo! Sports eShop. Woohoo! There you go. So if you ever have a question about sporting events, sporting tailgating, any kind of sports fan experience you want to go to anywhere in the country, and we're actually looking at doing the Olympics as an event. So if you have any questions about getting to any sporting event in the country, get a hold of us, send us a message, and we'll get you in touch with the right people on how to do that.
We just got, we're on Facebook Live here, and Samantha Smith, who you know, and a beautiful young lady out of Northern California has just requested to be on the dating show. Yeah, absolutely. And I think we're going to do 2 shows next week. Robert, we're going to pay you extra. Don't worry. We're going to do 2 shows next week. One of them is going to be about dating, like the art of dating and how to get a date. But the second one is we're going to actually do a dating show. It's going to be like the old dating show where we have 3 contestants and then me, and the winner or the loser gets a date with me. What do you guys think of that?
Hey, that's a good answer.
I'm making this up as we go. Anyway, Benito, shout out to eSports for putting together great packages. I know we're working with them in the All-Star Game, the Yankee Series, and they're a lot of fun. So we really appreciate them being our sponsor. And Christos, if you're listening, the bill is in the mail. We're waiting for your first payment for the sponsorship. And let's do it. Let's get live to Mikel Mecki. So jacked to have my good buddy. I've known Mikel, how long have we known each other?
Oh, my goodness. 14, 15 years almost?
14, 15 years. Yeah. And we're excited to have him on the show. First question, we got a list of questions that we're going to ask him today. We've already talked about Warrior basketball. Let's talk about your book, Running with Finishers. I'm about halfway through it. Tell us the concept. What's the difference between a runner and a finisher in life?
The concept is simple. It's something I came up with just in life, trying to figure out things, trying to figure out who to work with, who to trust. And I ran with runners before, and I didn't get anywhere. I got around the track, basically, is what happened. But when I started to run with finishers, these were people that had success. I said, wait a minute. There's a difference between running with runners and running with finishers. And that's kind of how the book came up. Just started writing and just putting stuff out there to help people find people who've had success rather than folks who just talk about success.
And you talk a lot about mentorship.
Yeah.
And if it's okay, I'm going to jump right in. It's a 3-part question. I'll ask you one at a time if you want. As far as your life and your mentors, your earliest mentor that you can remember, question 1. Question 2, and you can answer them one at a time. Question 2 is who's a mentor that's had an impact but you never met? And then question 3 is the most impactful mentor that you've ever had. So first of all, your earliest recollection of having somebody mentor you that you looked up to.
My dad would probably be the earliest recollection. I mean, he was just always highly involved in some really kind of serious things, but he would always take me with him. So I'd be 4 or 5 years old sitting in meetings with pretty powerful people, and he taught me, just how to walk into a room, how to talk to people, how to listen, how to follow leadership, how to be a leader. Even when I didn't understand, that's what I was learning at early on.
I'm probably my dad same way, and I can remember just little lessons. Like once I won I won a free throw contest. I was going to the state championship, and people would congratulate me. There was a big award ceremony, and people would say things like, "Hey, congratulations!" And I would downplay it. I would say, "It was nothing. It's not that big of a deal." And I remember getting back in the car with him and him saying, "When somebody gives you a compliment, embrace it. You know, my dad was a New York City fire chief, so, you know, wasn't a motivational speaker or anything else like that. But sometimes it's our father figure in our life that we learn the biggest lessons. Can you think of one particular situation where it was a drive in the car or a dinner, you know, a meal, or maybe you're at a game where he gave you like one piece of advice that stuck with you?
It's really, my mic does this when it's my turn, right? Yeah, really, I mean, I think the biggest thing was just knowing when to listen and knowing that the lesson would come in time. So I remember him telling me one time, he said, hey, just, you know, knowledge is like a time bomb. And so you might be listening and you may not get it, but it'll go off at the right time. And so he used to tell me stuff, and I'm like, that doesn't make sense, Dad. And then like 6 years later, the opportunity would arise, and I was like, wow, that's exactly what he meant. So at least he was preparing me for stuff even before I knew he was preparing me.
Strong.
I want to take you back just a few years. Before you had entrepreneurial success and big business, what were you doing? So we could relate to our audience. What were you doing before that time? Or what was did you have struggles before you got the big success?
Absolutely. I mean, I've always been an entrepreneur, but just trying to find the right thing to be an entrepreneur in. And so I was always in music. I was always in, you know, film and video and other businesses, a coffee shop, and, you know, just trying to find my niche. And it wasn't so much about the business as it was wanting to be successful and be an example. And so just kind of struggling, fledgling around, trying to find the right people, trying to find the right business model, and just trying to figure stuff out. But I was in my early 20s, so it was a good time to make a lot of mistakes.
So you were talking about music videos. Were you a rapper, hip hop artist? What were you going for there?
Oh yeah. I mean, I've been in music since my first music mentor, interestingly enough, was really Prince. That was my first. I mean, if it wasn't for Prince, I probably would have never gotten into music. And I was like 9 or 10. I joined a band, learned how to play the drums, guitar, everything because of Prince.
There's a story that came out this week. We were talking about it before the show, where you're from the Bay Area, and nobody knows this until the story came out, that the solar paneling in many people's homes and condos and everything were done because of Prince, because he went behind the scenes and bought that, which is just one of the many philanthropic stories. And for those that are watching on Facebook Live, it's a little chaotic here on the roof. Always what seems like a good idea, Benito. I was like, the way here, I was like, Benito, you're so smart. You got us on the roof. Now we're doing a podcast where, if you've been watching, Robert is frivolously trying to figure out a way to block the sound on the 21st floor of the Icon building. So I'm going to tell you, though, listen, if it's hard to hear, don't worry about it. Sometimes the best gifts come in packages that are hard to open.
Right. And we're live from the best location possible, so I think I deal with the wind noise to sit in this arena.
Exactly. Beautiful live view. I want to ask you another question really quick. You were talking about one of your first mentors, who was Prince.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we all know what happened. But what was it that gravitated you towards him? What was there? Certain keys, certain momentum things you saw, or what was it?
Truth be told, I had a lot of friends that didn't fit in. I fit in a lot of social, but I had a lot of friends that didn't fit in. But Prince made it okay to be different and be in music. It's just really weird. So he did a lot of things, and he dressed a certain way. And I mean, it seemed weird and androgynous back in the day. But now what he did is considered sexy. So he just was a trendsetter in music and fashion and look, and just crossed all the boundaries.
That's pretty cool. Let's go back to the original question. 3 mentors. 1 that you said your dad was the earliest. So 2, I would imagine, was Prince, because you never met him. Would that be the answer for that question 2?
Yeah. He was. Yep.
And then 3, biggest impact of anybody you've ever met, all the mentors you've ever had, biggest impact.
It's really tough. I met some great people. I've had a chance to be around a lot of billionaires. But then you got somebody, I think one of the biggest mentors outside of my father, because I can always go back to him. I mean, he's the go-to guy. And my mom, who's just such a shining example of just a human. But I would say somebody like Darnell Self, good friend of mine, Entrepreneur of the Year of National Black Chamber of Commerce, just, in everything, life, marriage, business, and just working with groups of people and motivating people and really caring for people has been probably one of the greatest mentors.
Yeah, I would concur. I might even give the same answer. I've had the chance to know Mr. Darnell Self almost 20 years now. Wow. And just what a sweetheart of a guy. I mean, I love him to death. His wife, Tracy, his children. He's a shining example. And so many times when you find a mentor, I was talking to somebody last night, and they said, it's hard to have one mentor that does everything. You got to have mentors in all areas. But I would say Darnell Self might be the exception to that rule, that he's somebody that you can look to in every area. His health, his fitness, he's all there.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, next question. Success is different for different people. What does success mean to Mykell Mecki?
I thought success was going to mean money. until I started to get a lot of money. And I realized that, I don't really like spending money that much. So that's not success. Success is a happy home life. Just being with the family, with the kids. And my wife and I, we wake up every morning, we have our coffee, we hang out, we go to the gym, and we hang out some more, then we go to lunch, we work. So success is just being happy. Just being able to do what you want to do without having to worry about a price tag. It's just an enjoyable experience.
Love it.
So now you brought up your wife. How did you guys meet?
We met on.
There goes God again on the sound. He
All
doesn't
right,
want people knowing the story.
Because I was about to tell a lie is what happened. So,
Good.
yeah, I got to tell
Keep
the
it
truth.
true. This is the truth show.
Right. We actually met in the business. We met at an event, and I know she's been around since she was like 18, 19 years old. But when I first met her, she walked in the room, and I remember I was standing with a guy, KC. I was standing next to a guy named KC, and I said, she walked in the room, he pointed her out. And he said, "Oh my God, you know her?" I said, "No, I'll never talk to her." And I specifically remember saying, he said, "Why?" I said, "Because she's too beautiful. I'm never going to talk to her." And at the time, I was married to my ex-wife, and I just I don't want to even play with temptation.
Sure.
And it was years later, like 3 years later, we ended up becoming kind of friends, and I needed somebody to hang out with me and go accompany me somewhere. I said, "Hey, would you mind? Because I don't want to go by myself. I don't want to take any guy friends." And so we just started hanging out, and then she never went home. That was it.
It's so cool. I was listening to a podcast where Tony Robbins was being interviewed yesterday by a guy by the name of Lewis Howes, who I love his podcast. He does a great show. I think it's called Business School. And he asked him, how important is it when you're picking a spouse that they're on the same page with you? Is your overall success in life, and I don't know that there's a right answer, but what's your thoughts on it? Is your overall success in life dependent on the spouse or the partner that you pick?
I think it is. Matter of fact, right before her and I got together, I just vowed to be single. I gave up. I was like, dating sucks. I'm not doing Match.com, eHarmony. I just didn't want to do it. I didn't want to try that. And actually, I tried, I think Match.com.
How do you try it?
I just put my information in, and the first person it brought up was somebody that I knew, that I worked with. And I'm like, okay, then I'm not using this, because I'm not going to ever date that person. But it was the first person that showed up when they showed me like my profile, like my matches. So I sat down one day with a piece of paper. I wrote all the things down I wanted in a wife. Like, the only thing I left out, ironically, was skin color. I didn't think black, white, or indifferent. I just wrote everything down and who I thought would be a perfect match for me. And the whole time I knew my wife, I just never thought it was her. And then I looked at the list, and I looked at her, and I was like, wow, this is like the one that I should be with. So,
of all the things you wrote on the list, tell us three that you remember being at the top of the list. What were three things that you wrote down?
Oh, well, first, I'm a hair fanatic. I love hair. I love women with long hair. So I got more than I bargained for. When we go to the salon, we actually get charged double. Like, I didn't know that was a thing. They charge us extra because she has extra long hair.
Do you guys go to the same salon?
No, we don't. I pick her salons.
Okay.
I cut my own hair. I'm a genius, right? I'm
really
good. But yeah, I pick her salons. I'm very picky about that. The other thing, eye color. I wanted to wake up every morning and look into a beautiful set of eyes. And I put that down. And then I want somebody just all around just fun. That we could just go do stuff, like my best friend.
Well, she's certainly those qualities. I love Krista. She's a great girl.
So when that's an interesting topic you brought up. When you're writing these things down and putting it out to the universe, not only in dating issues and wife stuff, but can you relate that to business? Do you do that in your business, doing those, writing goals down, writing habits down, something like that?
Right. Matter of fact, that's kind of where I got it from, because I do it for business all the time, but I never did it for relationships. I'm always writing what I want, the kind of people I want to work with. So I said, let me do it for business. Let me do it for relationship what I did for business, and it worked out perfectly.
If you're just tuning in, I don't know why you would tune in halfway through a podcast, but if you are just tuning in, we're talking to the man himself. He's an author. He wrote a book called Running with Finishers, but he's one of those guys that had success first. He definitely had success first before he wrote a book. A lot of times people write a book and they hope that book sort of launches them to success. But Mikhail Mecki, what inspired you to put your thoughts down on paper, and what was the process like of writing a book? I've written a book, so I know it's a lot more work. It's not as fun and glorious as a lot of people would imagine.
Absolutely. Well, first, let me get a cameo of the ring, because Samantha Smith, my good friend that works with the Warriors, got me the ring, and she keeps sending me messages on the podcast saying, let me get a cameo of the ring. So here. And then we'll also
she's going to be on our dating show.
Right. Oh, yeah, please.
You better get a plane ticket.
She's like a little sister to me, so the sooner we get her married, the better.
All right.
Trust me, I'd be happy.
Is she dating anybody now? That's what we need to know.
See, I don't think so.
You don't have to answer that.
And if she is, I wouldn't know, because I probably wouldn't approve. But,
right.
But tell you what, writing a book, I wrote the book 5 years ago, right? So some of the stuff in there seems like prophetical, because if you look, I'm talking about the Warriors and Steph Curry being the greatest player in the NBA, and this is back when he was hurt. but I just wrote it because I felt it. And then my wife finally said, look, just finish it. It's done. So I sat down one day and started reading through, and I was like, I got a book here. I mean, I had 300 pages that I had already had done, and I just never put it together. So wrote it, edited, and then, of course, thanks to you put me in touch with some good people, and you just kept mentioning it. And so I finally said, I think Steve's trying to send me a message. I need to finish this.
I was reading your book, and it was crazy because how you talked about Steph Curry. You were walking in the airport, and you wanted to carry his bags for him, but he was humble. He's like, no, it's all good. So you probably had, a 5-10 minute conversation with him, right?
Yeah, I got to spend like 15 minutes. And we were on the plane together. He was sitting right behind me. He was in the middle. He's the last guy on the plane on Southwest, sitting in the middle seat. And I'm like, this guy's an NBA star catching Southwest. And he was going to see his training coach. This is when his ankles were injured. And he was right before he just got really healthy. And I said, hey, sir, I can't let you walk through this airport with your bag. And I remember saying to him, I said, you know what's funny about this? I said, this is the last time this season you'll ever be able to walk through the airport and do this, because nobody talked to him through the airport. Him and I were walking. He had been with the Warriors for like 2 years already, and nobody saw him. Nobody tried to take a picture with him. And I'm laughing. I'm like, nobody is paying attention to you. I said, you'll never be able to do this again. And he kind of laughed it off. And, he answered a call from his wife, Aisha, and then he hung up. And we talked a little bit more. And the only thing I didn't do is get a picture with him. I just didn't want to. I said, we had such a great conversation. I didn't want to end it as a fan. I wanted to be a friend.
I know, it's so weird. I've met Derek Jeter before. And it's like, I remember from the minute I saw him to the minute the conversation was over, exactly everything that happened. And sometimes it could be disheartening. Like for me and Jeter's very close. He's very private. The difference between him and Curry at that point, Curry wasn't a star yet.
Right.
But Jeter was way past being a star. And it was tough. It was tough because, you're going up to him and you want him to be like, oh, man, you went to 162 games. That's so cool. And basically I told him what I did, and he's like, that's cool. And I was like, so I told him again. I started over. I was like, maybe he didn't hear me. So I told him the whole story again. He's like, nice to meet you. And I was like, oh, that sucks. And I had a copy of my book for him, but we were out at a bar, and I didn't want him to turn me down, And so you actually carry a copy of your book for Curry just in case you run into him. Is that right?
Oh, it's crazy. I just started doing it recently. Actually, when I wrote the book, I did it. And then last week, I put a copy of my book. I said, you know what? I'm going to run to Steph Curry. I'm going to give him this book. And that same day, I was out with my wife. We were getting manicures and pedicures. Yes, we do that. We take care of our feet. And I come out of the manicure pedicure place, and I run into Donald Foyle, who was the center for the Warriors back in the day. I think number 31. So I said, well, you know what? This is Steph Curry, but I'm going to give it to him. So I gave him my book. He gave me his book. We talked. So I put another book in my bag. The next day, I'm out eating lunch, and I run into Festus Ezeli.
Yeah.
And the weird thing is he's number 31, and he's the center for the Warriors. So I gave him my book. We talked a little bit, and he actually said, I'm going to read it on the plane. I was like, okay. And then the next morning I wake up, Festus Ezeli is Snapchatting on the plane, talking to Ron Adams, the coach, and then on his lap, he has my book. He said, this is my read for this flight. Nice. So coolest thing in the world. So now I got another book that is for Steph Curry, and when I run into him, I will give it to him personally.
Benito, I got another question for Mikal. I don't even think we're going to get to our pre-written questions, which we don't care about, because this is very interesting stuff. Hey, thanks for being on with us today.
Oh, this is fun.
This is a lot of fun. So if I had to define you in one word, I would say style. Here's a guy that Mikal slept over our place last night, and he comes out this morning, and we're having coffee and having smoothies, and he asks us, hey, y'all got an iron? Or he didn't even say, do you have one? He's like, where's the iron? And
that was the funny thing, because we both looked at each other, we're like,
we didn't know.
I don't know.
We're not really sure if we have an iron.
I felt uncomfortable asking. I had a feeling. Something tells me it's going to be a no.
But then he went to the dryer, and he found a special mode the dryer goes into that's like steam mode or something.
Right. And it's your dryer, but I figured it out.
You did figure it out. But tell us about your style. Who'd you get it from? When I'm talking about the way you dress, the way you walk into a room, your posture, both physically and mentally, your manners, your etiquette. You're a style guy.
Let me get this guy for you guys who aren't watching right now, who can't see it exactly at this moment. This guy is pimped out right now. Okay, me and Steve,
this is him dressing down. Trust me.
Yeah, we're rocking our jerseys just because of the podcast, and he comes in a nice suit jacket. He's got the shoes on. He's rolling his shoes, and he's got the little napkin in his suit coat.
$300 jeans.
Sick. It's good. So yeah, we'll continue with Steve's question. How did you get your style? Where'd it come from?
Crazy thing about it, I think my style came from my dad, and I thought I invented my style. And then I saw some pictures from me when I was 3 years old, and I'm in a 3-piece suit with a tie on, and so my dad always dressed. And because he was a speaker, but he was a religious teacher and taught all over the world. Because he always walked around, he was in a suit and just finely dressed. And my mom, I remember her having fur coats and the jewelry and all, you know, the Jaguar with the phone in it back in the 70s, right? So I was always around this. I just didn't realize it. So it's like, I like to say I made it up myself, but it was given to me. It was a birthright, I should say.
Sure. Let's go back to your early days, if you don't mind, your childhood. And I think you're a couple years younger than me. You're early 40s?
40, I think I'm 42. I'll do the math later.
I know. At some point, you stop remembering.
Right.
I'm 45. You're 42. And tell me about your early childhood. You've talked about some positive things. Your father had some, you know, he was your mentor, and you talked about the style and stuff like that. Maybe some things that formed you, who you are today, maybe that weren't positive, or just what's made you who you are today from your early days?
I mean, the early days, just being around, because my father was a religious teacher, and I guess he was a motivational speaker without me really knowing what that was back then. I mean, it was the coolest thing in the world. Just being around that was amazing. Having a chance to learn from him and listen to him and figure out, you know, how to talk to people. And so that kind of made me who I am. And then, of course, my mom, you know, doing the same thing, you know, showing how to support. So I learned, like, everything I do in the kitchen, all the cooking skills I have, and I love to cook gourmet stuff. That's my mom. And then all the leadership stuff is really my dad. So I got a little bit of both. Just kind of growing up and being around them, and then I got great siblings. All my brothers and sisters are all, you know, successful in their own right. So I came up in an environment of success.
You know, it's so interesting, Benito. Let me just say this, because we had Chris Hughes. Chris, a good friend of both of ours.
Chris, yeah.
He's the best, and he was on our show 2 weeks ago, and exact opposite answer. You know, when I asked him about it, I didn't know what kind of answer I was going to get, but Chris said, you know, his parents weren't there growing up, and it was so much different. But here you both are, very successful in your fields of network marketing and speaking and training, both authors, but both had very different childhoods, and sometimes people use that as a crutch, as an excuse, and stuff like that. So it's interesting to take a look at that.
Yeah, it is, because some people, you know, they can, and I've had it both ways. I mean, we've been highly successful. I mean, my parents, when we first moved to San Francisco, we lived in the most posh neighborhood, Pacific Heights. I mean, those were $1 million, $5-10 million homes are. But then we went, you know, and landed on some hard times. So I've lived on both sides. I've lived in the good area. I've lived in Oakland in the height of the crack epidemic. And I've went to good high schools, bad high schools. So I've you know, been on food stamps and ate at 5-star restaurants. So I've been in everywhere in between.
So I want to go back to what you were talking about. Your dad was a religious guy. He was speaking in front of crowds with massive style, just showing everybody how he dressed. So we know now that you're on a level where you're speaking to crowds and everything. So how does that relate? Did you learn from him?
He's a great speaker, by the way. He's one of in our company, Legal Shield, that, you know, there's probably about 20 of the top people, Mikkel being one of them, that travel around and do talks. And I would say, style-wise, but also just, you know, somebody that gets the job done. So just a great speaker. Not just a great speaker, but inspires people to actually take action. I mean, just so you know that. But, you know, I don't know that you've ever had a chance to see him speak live.
I have not, no.
But he's great. So I'm sorry to interrupt.
Thank you.
No, yeah. That's great. I wanted our audience to know who he was and exactly what people who have seen him speak. But what is that, when you learned from your dad, or did you learn from your dad how to be on stage, or what makes you that powerful of a speaker? Where'd you get that from?
I mean, really, because he spoke from the heart. And so when I go to that place, when I'm not just delivering content, but you know, this is my little inside secret, but if I feel like I'm very close to tears, that's when I know I'm saying the thing that needs to be said. When I'm that passionate about what I'm saying to people is when I know I'm in the zone.
That's strong. And I know we both have another friend, Mike Humes.
Oh,
and
yes.
Mike's somebody that I think he spends so much time in preparation when he gives a talk. He's got his marble thing that he does when, you know, and just so many. Do you think about that? Do you have like a closing story and, hey, I'm going to open with this? Some people like me, I'm a little more off the cuff. I roll up on stage, I'm like, what am I going to talk about today?
Right.
Which isn't necessarily advice or the way to do it, but just sort of my personality. How much preparation do you put in before you get on stage to give a big talk?
I mean, it's kind of twofold. I put a lot of preparation in terms of just, you know, speaking well, you know, as I've done things like on the treadmill, running, you know, 10 miles per hour, and then trying to do the speech at the same time and not sound winded. So I do that stuff, but then I don't prepare necessarily going. So like I have no closing story in my head. Like some people have these real dramatic. Yeah. I'm not knocking them. They got these real elaborate closing stories, so they make people come to a cry, and then they start to whisper to bring you in, and those are great techniques. And you know, I just don't do any of that stuff. I come from the heart. I deliver. And I try not to prepare, so that way it's what I really want to say.
And I think that's why people relate to you so much, because I think I'm reading a book by John Addison right now called Real Leadership, and he talks about his mentor, Art Williams. And what Art did was he didn't talk to people, he talked with people. It's a whole different thing. And he had a whole different style. Here's a guy that just wore a T-shirt that said coach, and and stuff like that. So good stuff.
I'm noticing that too, is because when we talk on our podcast, we'll have a couple questions, but when we get on a Facebook Live or whatever we're doing, even right now, I think people, like what you just said, people can feel that authenticity when you're coming from the heart instead of taking them from the highs and the lows of stories you've already pre-thought of in your mind that you had to tell. And if you don't even go that way, but you get that heartfelt story coming out, and people just feel that authenticity right off the bat. And one thing I wanted to ask you real quick is, when you're say like we have some people that are interested in becoming public speakers and wanting to come up through the ranks, give them, in your opinion, give 2 pieces of advice that you would give to somebody who is about to share the stage or about to come on stage or about to get to that level.
Energy. My biggest pet peeve with public speakers is when they have no energy and they're just kind of up there. Nobody just wants to listen to you. Nobody has anything that important to say where people just want to sit there. I consider us entertainers on some levels. People got to enjoy what they're hearing. So, I make people laugh, right? And I don't do it on purpose. I just kind of do it. Now, if I had to do stand up, I would probably suck, but so I couldn't do what Steve does. But I make people laugh and just bring that energy. And so speakers know to bring that energy and that authenticity and be real, not trying to sound like the last guy.
And I think a really great speaker, too, is somebody that lives their life like that. Whether they're talking to somebody at the grocery store or they meet a stranger, they're talking to somebody at church, that's who they are. They bring that energy, they bring that synergy. And I think that's one of the magical things, quite frankly, that Benito and I have when we get together, and whether we're on air or we're just talking with people like that. They feel the energy. They feel it's exciting. All right. Let's. I got a question here for you. Biggest lesson you've learned from a negative experience. So think of maybe a hard time in your life, whether it was a one-time thing or a period that you went through. And there's people listening today, that are maybe listening and they like what they hear, but they're stuck.
Right.
So maybe biggest lesson you learned from a negative experience.
Just, being broke was negative. And when I was broke, I actually had more money than I thought I had, but I was around broke people that use terms like, one of my pet peeves when people use the term like gas money, right? Like there's some money specifically for gas. But I was around people that talk like that. Oh, this is my gas money, or can you give me some gas money if I come pick you up? Like, we give you $3 because you came and picked me up. And I didn't realize that was a broke mentality, right? And so I was around those people. And so I found myself on food stamps and on welfare, married with a child at 19, or not even married. I had a child at 19 because I was around broke people. And when I got away from them, I realized when I started having money and having furniture in my house and not being on food stamps, I had the same job that I had when I was quote unquote broke. But it was my mentality towards my money that made me broke.
It's interesting you bring that up. It's the broke mentality that a lot of people struggle with. Now, if somebody's out there either starting a business or wanting to become more empowered, is there a book you would recommend? Is it something that you do on a daily habit, a daily ritual? How can they get over that broke mentality?
Not to be sacrilegious, but the Think and Grow Rich is like the Bible. It is something you can read 100 times and never get tired of it. You got to just read it and read it. So that's like the best book.
Yeah, that's funny. That's what Chris Hughes said too. Thoughts are things, which is the very first thing that came out of there. I like to think about gas money too. We drove from Orange County from San Diego last night, about an hour and a half in the car. And thank God that I stopped for gas beforehand, because I always ask people for gas money. That's like the first thing I say. It's like, hey, you don't mind splitting the tolls and the gas?
Yeah, that's a typical trait of millionaires. They tend to do that.
I'm pretty cheap. Awesome. Mikhail Mecki, we're talking live here in beautiful San Diego, California. If you could live one place in the world besides the Bay Area, where would you live?
You know what? I love Southern California, but I think it's Italy, where I would really love to live.
Really? Have you been?
I have not. So I look at a lot of pictures.
And I went there last year, as you know. We had a trip out there, and we went to Rome and then Florence, and it was just amazing. And it was so cool. It's fantastic. And so Italy would be your first spot. What about in the United States? Would you live anywhere else in the States?
You know what? I love SoCal, but like somewhere like Florida. I like weather, and somewhere where clothing is limited, right? Not because I want to look at girls. I just don't feel like wearing a lot of clothes. Okay.
You could tell us. Nobody's listening.
And the humidity doesn't bother you at all.
Oh no! I love the humidity. That's my natural inclination.
So this is our first time doing Facebook Live, and we've got 70 viewers. At least that's what we had. I'm 45 and I need reading glasses. So at one point it was either 7 or 70 or
right.
700.
Right. There you go. Let's go with 700.
There was a 7 in there, or unless it was 1. So tell us about social media. I mean, I know that you don't necessarily consider yourself an expert, but when you write a book, man, it's one thing to write it. It's sort of like finishing. You know, going back to your idea about being a runner and a finisher. One of the things that I took from the book is, as a finisher, you're always starting new projects. You're finishing them, but at least you're starting them. You're living life. You got goals, right? And so let's talk a little bit about, in writing a book is one thing, but now marketing it. Tell us about using social media, either to market that or your other businesses. What have you learned in the last couple of years? Because it's a whole new world.
Yeah, I mean, it's the greatest form of advertisement. I mean, you know, trying to get on, social media gets you in front of eyeballs. That's what it boils down to. And I found that people on social media, they don't want a commercial. They want you. And so I can post something up and try to say, hey, buy my book. But if I show things about my life and hanging out with the family and things I'm passionate about, it's amazing how many people will click on like and respond. And so I get more likes from a picture of my daughter and my wife hanging out in Hawaii than I do trying to, post up some fancy meme to try to get people to support my book. And so I've never done that. I just I use it as a form of letting people know who I am and finding out who other people are. And it's a lot of fun.
And Mikhail, if there's somebody's listening out there and they wanted to book you for a talk or maybe a book signing or just get a copy of your book, is there a website that you can send them to?
Yeah, it's hard to book me right now. I'm booked out. I'm in Dubai. I'm in Africa all month.
Whoa, he's booked out. I love it. I love it. He's booked out.
See, I got to make myself sound like I'm not available so that people be like, oh, I got to get him. No, I wish that was happening. But yeah, it's my website is easy, runningwithfinishers.com. So runningwithfinishers.com. And Amazon. I just went on Amazon recently.
It's so funny you say that about acting like you're busier than maybe you are, so you get people that want you. I was in San Diego when I used to live here years ago, and I called this restaurant that I like going to, and I said, yeah, I'd like to get a table for 2 tonight, like in an hour. And they said, oh, we're sold out. I said, oh, really? I said, I really love your restaurant. I really want to go. And they're like, no, I can't squeeze you in anywhere. I was like, how about at 8:30? Nope, sorry. And so just for the heck of it, because I don't take no easily, I drove over and the place was completely empty, right? And I'm like, whoa. I'm like, I either got somebody on a bad day, like an employee that was about to quit, or that was their strategy. Anyway, we've got a little bit of wind. Hopefully in the editing room, Robert will be able to take care of this. But guys, this is what life's all about. You set goals, you got ideas, and then the winds of life hit us. And it's not about the winds. What did Jim Rohn say? It's about how we set our sail. And so I'm not sure if we set our sail correctly today, Benito, but here we are with Mikhail Mecki live. We got just a few minutes left in the interview, and something new that we'd like to do. Benito, do you want to head this up?
Yeah, I want to say this is what we kind of got off of. If you look at ESPN, they used to do the hot seat, like the Budweiser hot seat, and we actually came up with a few questions, a few words for you, and we want to go. It's almost like a rapid fire kind of thing. The first word or the first phrase that comes to your mind when we start firing these words off. So do you want to start, Steve, or you want me to?
Well, why don't you do the whole thing?
Okay.
Actually, we'll go back and forth, however you want to do. But let's explain a little bit more. It's your go-to list. Yes. All right. So we're trademarking that. It's your go-to list. So we'll say a topic, and you tell us the thing that on your go-to list that you like the most. Okay. So Benito, actually, I'll let you do this. It'll probably be easier if one person does this. And the wind really is now kicking in.
It's about to slap him in the back of the head. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go with the number one. Cocktail. What's your go-to cocktail?
Oh, my good. Manhattan.
Manhattan. Is it, on the rocks?
Yes.
I love that one. All right. Favorite sports team?
Warriors.
Warriors, all right. Let's go with anywhere in the country in the U.S., favorite restaurant?
That is a tough one. Favorite restaurant? Sushi restaurant. It's actually in the Bay Area. Umi Sushi.
Interesting. I dig on sushi too. What is your go-to expression?
Oh, do I have one? Awesome.
That's it? Awesome?
Yeah, I just say awesome.
Mine's oh geesh. Oh geesh.
I like saying fantastic.
Absolutely. That's another one I do.
So if you could, past, present, passed away, whatever, who would be your number one go-to motivational speaker?
Ooh, that would be tough. Wow. I like Les Brown. I like Les Brown all around. I love his stories and his energy.
How about your go-to friend?
Go-to friend, that would have to be probably have to be my cousin. That'd be the go-to guy that you could just call about anything.
Besides your book, what's a go-to book?
He wouldn't have said his own book.
Right.
He might have, but I don't think he would have.
You know what? I gotta say, I love Think and Grow Rich. I mean, and How to Win Friends and Influence People. That would be my second.
Your go-to pet peeve, one thing that drives you crazy.
Oh my goodness, negative people. They're just always talking negative. I can't take it.
If you could get in front of a TV, go back to Nintendo days, what's your favorite go-to video game?
That had to be what was that? It's not. Was it First Down or I can't remember whatever it was. It's First and 10 and all of that. Where every hip hop song gets the hut hut hut. Whatever that game was. Yeah.
What about current video game?
I'm not allowed to play video games in my house, so yeah. Like it's not even the discussion. I'm not allowed to have a Wii, a PlayStation, anything.
That's funny.
What about when you're traveling the country? Where's your go-to amusement park?
Six Flags. I mean, the best one I think in the world is the one right here in Southern California. That's my favorite because of the rides.
The one in Valencia, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, my favorite.
Outside of Steph Curry, your go-to athlete.
Yeah. Steph Curry. I'm sorry, say it again.
Besides Steph Curry, your go-to athlete.
You know what? I'm not the biggest sports fan. I love sports, but I mean, he's the guy. I would say after that would be somebody like a Jordan, just for what he accomplished.
Yeah, sure.
What about your favorite go-to Netflix series?
Oh my goodness. I want to say The Wire. If it wasn't for The Wire, The Wire is everything. I mean, that's just like the greatest series ever.
We just spilled a cup of coffee on the show here, but it's okay. Robert does not seem alarmed at all. He didn't move an inch.
That's because nothing electrical was involved.
Yeah. He's like, that's not part of my job description.
What is your go-to play?
I think which play do I love the most? You know what? Wicked, incredible play. Not just because my cousin was in it. I just think it was an awesome production.
That's cool.
And what about your go-to? Speaking on the food subject, your go-to dessert?
Man, you know what? I like the creme brulee.
Oh man, I dig on that too.
I love it.
Oh yeah,
I love it. Creme brulee is delicious. Cool. Benito, you got any more?
We got one more. I want to ask him, what would be your go-to Hall of Famer, your favorite athlete Hall of Famer?
Oh man, that's tough. I mean, there's so many guys in the Hall. I can't even name one that stands out over the other ones because it's just, I mean, one, it's just tough to get in there. I mean, you got to be dynamic.
Now you're from the Bay Area, so give me your thoughts on Barry Bonds, the whole steroid situation, letting these guys in. Whether it be Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, that whole lot of people that are either admitted steroid users or obvious steroid users.
I mean, to not let Barry Bonds in is to act as if he was the only guy using steroids. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. I mean, there's so many people who judge him for what he did. I mean, steroids, they make him look big, but his overall game, that's talent. That's natural talent. I could take steroids and I'm not going to be Barry Bonds.
Okay.
You know what? I think a lot of the issue is with Barry Bonds, too. It's not only did he, a lot of people look at his cheating in the game, but a lot of those guys did the same thing. They were all using juice. They're hitting 525-foot home runs. Now, and I heard that, I've never met Barry Bonds, but I heard he's a jerk off the field, too. So I wonder if that's baseball writers and baseball voters. That's another issue where they're like, you know what? He's just an ass. We don't even want him in the Hall.
Right. I think that's how people kind of feel about even with Pete Rose. It's like if he would to just admit and just say, hey, guys, look. But because he's just, kind of stubborn about how he talks about it, they're like, well, then we'll just not reward you. So, yeah, I think it's the same thing.
Yeah, that's a tough one, too.
Most hits all time, and there's no doubt about it. He should be in the Hall of Fame, Pete Rose. And it just has that make a simple apology.
Yeah,
And he can't do it.
He needs a new PR person.
Yeah, he needs something. He's, what he does to make his money now, he goes to like Vegas and just signs autographs and sells them, and it's sad to see what's happened to the guy over the last bunch of years. I thought he was going to get in. I thought with the new commissioner this year, they were going to.
I think it'll be a few years down the road.
Right.
I don't think he's really ever going to apologize, but I think once he's almost, and I hate to say it, once he's almost on his deathbed or something.
Right.
It's unfortunate that's going to come, but I think that's when they'll be like, oh, hey, by the way, Pete, come on in now.
I was at a World Series game a couple years ago. It was Yankees in Atlanta, 1998, when the Yankees swept the Braves. And Game 2, they brought out the top 100 players in the history of Major League Baseball. I think that's what it was. And it was the first time that Pete Rose stepped foot back on the field. And that's when the one reporter, I'm trying to think of his name, from Fox, sort of attacked him on air, which was not physically. But
was that Joe Buck?
No, I don't like Joe either, but it wasn't Joe. Anyway, I should have my facts together before I start quoting sports history. But I was at the game, and it was amazing. The Yankees won that game because they swept in 4, and then they went on, for anybody that missed it, to beat the San Diego Padres. They swept them the following year, actually. So I'm talking. I made a mistake. 1999 was the year Pete Rose was on the field. So anyway, I'm obviously living in the glory years because the Yankees are in last place right now. So I'm trying to make up for it. Mikhail, we got just a couple minutes left. In your book, let's go back to your book. Ask you a couple more questions about your book.
Don't ask me the question about when I was stripping to make extra money on the weekends. I don't strip anymore. So.
Oh, really? What years did you do that?
Yeah, that was 1964.
What's the qualities of a finisher? What's the qualities of a finisher in your book? Say 3 qualities. If you met somebody, you go, man, this guy's a finisher. What would they be?
Determined, honest, and focused. You know, some finishers are not honest about how they got there, and so they're not a finisher. They're kind of making up stuff, and they really didn't do it the way they said they did it.
Interesting.
When I was reading in your book, also there was a chapter about you meeting a billionaire.
Yes.
And I thought that was so captivating because I used to work in Vegas a lot. I met a billionaire, a couple of them. But I want to know, when you were sitting there, when you were talking to him, what was one thing where you were like, wow, that is a great piece of advice. That is one thing that I will always remember and I will never forget it and use it in my business.
Right. You know what? Just humility and caring for your people. I mean, I walked with him, and he knew all of his employees by name. Every person we ran into, he knew by name. So just that alone let me know he was a billionaire because he cared about his people.
And I know this sounds hitting us hard right now too, so hopefully we can get this worked out. But when you're looking for a mentor, and a lot of people don't even know where to start, so what are some qualities, if you were looking for a mentor, maybe a couple qualities that you would look for in a mentor that would be open to giving you advice? And that's, if you're watching Facebook Live, Mr. Mekhi he's putting everything in it. A lot of guys, if they had like a big ego, they'd have walked off our set and be like, it's a bunch of bullshit. But Mikhail Mekhi is doing everything in his power to improve his sound quality.
Right. Well, you guys are paying me way too much money to do this, so I think there's a free lunch involved or something. So
I'm giving you gas money.
I got to earn them fries.
That's the name of the show, Gas Money.
Gas Money, right.
Gas Money, there it is.
I actually like my little setup. I feel secluded.
You got your own little Ford over there.
Right.
And so I'm not even sure, did I ask a question?
We asked a question about, I can't even remember now. But it was a good one.
It was really good. I can't remember what it was.
It doesn't matter.
We'll go to the playback.
I got 1,000 of them.
Yeah, we'll punch it in later.
So, all right. Anything that we haven't talked about that you'd like to address as far as...
I got another question for you real quick. So you talked about comfort zone in your book.
Yes.
Now, a lot of people say, hey, you know what? You have to break those patterns and get out of your comfort zone to become that kind of success story. Come up and do what you want in your industry. What is it that you've gone through that had to get out of your comfort zone to become where you are right now?
Yeah, I mean, every level there's a comfort zone because you work your tail off to get somewhere, and then you get there and you want to rest, and you should enjoy it. But what happens sometimes is that you stay too long and you don't move to the next level and you miss your opportunity. So I've just learned that when I have success, we put comfort zones in our timeline, and so we'll go like every 90 days, and it will go away for 3-4 days and enjoy some time away. We don't answer the phones. We're not doing business. So we create our own comfort zone, and then when we come back home, we get out of it. So we kind of control our comfort zone rather than kind of letting it control us.
I love it. I love the first thing you said, how we hit different levels of comfort zone. Let's go back to your speaking career. When you first got on stage as a speaker, was that in your comfort zone or out of your comfort zone?
Only reason in my comfort zone because, being a hip-hop artist, I mean, we did shows. I mean, we used to do 3 shows a week, and, I danced for different groups. I mean, I performed. I've opened up for different groups. Digital Underground and Tupac, and, I'm from the Bay Area, so all of, Mac Dre. I mean, I performed with all those guys, right? So being on stage, so I just had to, I switch into my stage persona, so I'm not nervous. There's no stage fright. So I'm just not rapping and dancing anymore. I'm just talking about good stuff.
I hear Tupac, and I'm like, what? This is awesome.
No, that's cool.
Right.
He throws around a lot of names. If he knew half of the people that he throws the names, it would be impressive. And I'm sure you do know all of them. Hey, I remembered my last question. It's about finding a mentor.
Yes.
And for a lot of people, this is really the key to success. But I'll tell you, at the same time, as somebody that's had success in business like you, I get people approach me all the time, and I just don't feel like their energy's right, or I feel like they drag me down. So a lot of times I have to turn people down for mentoring. So what advice would you give somebody that's looking for a mentor in any area of their life to be able to get that mentor to say yes to them?
I mean, really be serious about it. I mean, people, want people to be their mentors all the time, but they're not serious, not willing to do what it takes. And so I give people a few simple things and see what they do with it. And so I know finding a mentor is tough, but also a mentor accepting you is tough because they got everybody pulling on them, wanting their time and really wasting their time. So my thing is you've got to be able to give back to the mentor. If you can't give the mentor something, then they have no need for you. So I find ways to, like with Steph Curry, I was like, let me carry your bag, right? And so I got to talk with him because I was willing to walk with him and at least accompany him to his car, right? So I just find successful people say, look, how can I help? How can I be of service? I've even done stuff for free. One of my DJ mentors, I got to shout out DJ Warren 702 in Vegas. He's at Dre's. He's the headliner there. He was at the other club there for a long time. Warren is my DJ mentor, but when I first met him, I said, hey, can I carry your bags into the club, right? We were there hanging out. We met him through social media, which is great. And now every time I'm in Vegas, I get to hang out with him. And last time I was there, Iggy Azalea came in the booth, and I'm hanging out with her crew afterwards. And it's because I just wanted to help him. I just wanted him to not walk in by himself because he's the guy, right? He's the star. So just serving first gets you a lot of places.
Awesome.
Did you hear that, guys? When you're looking for a mentor, you want to see what kind of value you can bring towards them, bring to them. Because you don't want to show, oh, this is what I have, this is what I'm all about. You want to say, hey, this is what I can do for you. Make sure you give value to your mentor, whoever you're looking towards out there.
Cool. Benito, I've got one more question, then I'll let you ask one more, and then we'll do our final question. Sound good?
Yep.
Network marketing. Some people swear by it. Some people swear at it. Some people call it one of those things. You made a career choice, and you're a guy that's multi-talented. You really are, from the music industry and just a gifted leader and speaker. There's a lot of things that you could be doing, a lot of ways that you could be earning your income, but you chose network marketing. Tell us about why you did that.
Well, every company I've ever worked for, I've always been like top guy. Like I've always been a great employee. Even when I was at the Coliseum, I used to work there as a kid, and every time a new employee would come in, I'd have to train them. And I would never make any money from that, but I would be training sometimes my replacement even. And so network marketing, I'm doing the same thing. I'm doing something. I'm providing a service for people, legal service, identity theft protection. And now when I train somebody, instead of them just disappearing, I actually benefit from it and they benefit from it, and it forms a lifelong relationship. So I'm doing the same thing I did in corporate America. I'm just getting paid just a whole lot of money to do it.
That's awesome. Thank you.
I want to kind of go back on that note about preparing for success. And you talked about Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. If you guys don't know that book, you should definitely go grab it. What is another book where people can say, hey, you know what? I just want to read something I'm going to feel empowered. Some book that you have read before. What's one of your most books or one or two books that you would say, hey, you guys should read this, get your mindset straight? What's powerful?
You know what? The Charge. Brendon Burchard. The Charge is just, that book gets you revved up. It's a new take kind of on old philosophy, but his stuff is just so amazing because it just forces you to get out there. His term is level up. And so I use that sometimes. Whenever I'm in a zone, I think I'm a 10. I level up and I realize I wasn't at my full potential. My energy, even when I walk in a room, sometimes I have to remind myself, level up, go another level. Don't walk in the room and dim it. Be excited, be bright, and you're just amazing how people gravitate towards you.
Hey, so you're talking about that level up, and I want to tell you one thing that I've learned from one of my mentors, and she told me, she said, when you go into a room, when you do whatever you're doing, take 5% of your energy and just raise it 5%. And I think that's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, same exact concept. Yep.
It's cool because you guys could probably tell I see a personal trainer, right? I spend a lot of time in the gym.
Massive results, I see.
Hey, they're getting better. Oh, by the way, I didn't tell our listeners I'm gluten free.
Oh, that's
so if I'm gonna be going out to eat with you, get ready for the pain in the ass guy. As soon as I walk in, I'm going to say to the hostess, I need to talk to the chef. I'm gluten-free for 2 weeks, and I haven't had a beer in I've had one beer. I'll be honest with you. I broke down, but I had one beer in the last 15 days, and I'm going for Cancun. We're going to Cancun.
Yeah, I'm on the same program. Right.
Nice.
Yeah.
Boy, people are going to be going crazy. So anyway, my personal trainer does this thing. He's like, what level of intensity are you at right now? Like while we're doing something, I'm like, a 7. He's like, all right, let's take it to a 9. Take it to a 9. And it's cool that you can sort of judge where you are in any situation like that. Mikkel Mecki, final question. We ask this to all of our guests, and you are our episode 6. And thank you so much for coming in.
We really do appreciate it.
Yeah, you're great, man. We could do this for another hour. And final question is, if talking to your 18-year-old self, getting ready, preparing for the world, what advice, knowing what you know now, would you give your 18-year-old self?
Listen to those that are older than you, like your parents, and just shut up. Because when you're 18, you think you know every damn thing, and you fall on your ass, and you realize, I don't know anything. I'm not that bright. But you don't realize that till you're like 25, and you look back and say, if I'd have just listened, I'd have been on a whole nother level. So, you know, I mean, and of course, all my kids are teenagers now, or some of them are in their 20s now, and I wish I could tell them the same thing. But they'll figure it out when they're in their late 20s that they should have listened when they were 18 years old.
Great advice. Benito, we've had Mikhail Mecki here. What'd you think of him?
It's been a great show. You know what? I cannot wait until I listen to you on stage and get to see you speak in front of a couple hundred people. It's exciting. I'm ready to see that.
Well, we got a big event coming up in Oklahoma in July, Benito.
Yeah.
Right.
I know Mr. Mecki will be on stage.
15,000 people, so we'll see.
Hey, thanks for joining us, guys. That's a wrap of the 162 Experience.
Well, thank you for having me. I'll be back for the dating show.
Awesome.
Thanks, buddy.